The soldier who walked 10 miles to embark until he chose a different war. The title suggests a simple tale of dedication, a man determined to join his comrades in the fight. But this is not a story about reaching a destined battlefield. It is a story about a crossroads, a single monumental choice made on a dusty road in the autumn of 1944, a choice that would redirect one man's war from the frozen hell of the Ardennes to the sun-scorched desperation of a collapsing Reich. His journey began not with a rifle, but with a pair of boots, a duffel bag, and a steadfast commitment to duty that would soon be tested beyond imagination. Our story centers on Private First Class Arthur Art Johnson, a 19-year-old rifleman from Toledo, Ohio, assigned to Company B, 1st Battalion, 394th Infantry Regiment, 99th Infantry Division. By late November 1944, the battle babies of the 99th were green, but digging in along a quiet, densely wooded sector of the front in the Ardennes forest of Belgium. They held a line near the vital Losheim Gap, a historic invasion route. The strategic situation, as High Command saw it, was stable. The 99th was to hold this ghost front, learn the ropes, and prepare for eventual offensive operations. For PFC Art Johnson, recently recovered from a minor training injury at a rear area aid station, his war was about to begin. His objective was simple: rejoin his unit. He was given a travel order, a map reference, and directions to a troop train assembly point 10 miles from his position. On the morning of November 25th, under a leaden sky that promised snow, Johnson shouldered his gear and began his trek. The air carried the distant, muted thunder of artillery, not the frantic drumbeat of battle, but the sporadic, routine exchanges that defined a quiet front. Little did he know, as his boots crunched on the frost-hardened road, that every step was taking him away from a gathering cataclysm. While he walked, German forces were executing a final, secretive massing of unprecedented scale. Over 200,000 veteran troops, 1,900 artillery pieces, and nearly 1,000 armored vehicles, including the massive King Tiger tanks, were moving stealthily into position opposite the thinly held American line. Their objective? Operation Wacht am Rhein, a lightning strike through the Ardennes to Antwerp, designed to split the Allied armies and alter the war's course. By 1400 hours, Johnson reached a crossroads village. The distant rumble had changed. It was no longer sporadic. It was a continuous rolling growl to the north and east, the direction of his regiment. The ground itself seemed to vibrate. Then came the streams of humanity, not soldiers, but Belgian civilians, their faces etched with a fear he had never seen. They spoke in panicked French and Flemish, pointing back the way they'd come. Les Boches, beaucoup de chars. The Germans, many tanks. At the troop train depot, chaos reigned. Officers barked contradictory orders. Rumors flew faster than facts. The line had been hit hard. No one knew what was left. The train he was to board was now being commandeered for ad hoc reinforcements, ammunition, and the evacuation of wounded. A harried logistics sergeant, looking at Johnson's orders, just shook his head. "Son, your battalion's in the middle of it. That train ain't going to them. Nothing is." Johnson stood at his personal crisis point. His unit, his brothers, were engaged in a desperate battle for survival against a surprise offensive of staggering ferocity, and he was here, 10 miles away, with his rifle and his orders, which were now meaningless. The system had broken down. The weight of the decision pressed upon him. He could wait in the chaos of the rear, hoping for orders that might never come, or... He chose a different war. Looking at the map, then at the column of retreating civilians and shattered vehicles, Johnson made a calculation. If the main German thrust was towards the north, other units, perhaps unprepared, lay in its path. He recalled a fragment from a briefing. To the southeast, near the German border itself, was a series of fortified positions along the Siegfried Line, held by static and understrength units. If the panzers were racing west, those rear echelon troops would be isolated, vulnerable. He approached a squad of engineers struggling to direct traffic near a wrecked truck. He saw their unit patch, the 9th Armored Division. "I'm an infantry rifleman," he stated, showing his dog tags. "My unit's cut off. You need men who can shoot straight?" The exhausted sergeant sized him up. They'd lost men to a mortar barrage that morning. He wasn't Johnson's CO. He couldn't give official orders, but this was December 1944, and the front was dissolving. "Grab some ammo from that crate and get in," the sergeant grunted, pointing to a half-track. In that moment, PFC Arthur Johnson of the 99th Infantry Division ceased to exist. He became, for all practical purposes, an attached infantryman for a platoon of the 9th Armored Division's 27th Armored Infantry Battalion. His new war was one of rapid movement and sudden, violent defense. Instead of the dense pine forests of the 99th sector, he fought in the rugged hills and villages east of Bastogne. 2 days after his choice, his ad hoc platoon was ordered to hold a small stone bridge over a creek, a minor tactical point, but critical to slowing the German advance. It was here, in a shallow foxhole dug beside the tread marks of a Sherman tank, that Johnson's war became terrifyingly personal. A German reconnaissance patrol, probing the line, was caught in the open by the tank's machine gun. Johnson, sighting his M1 Garand rifle on the enemy infantry scrambling for cover, realized he was no longer trying to reach a fight. He was in the heart of it. He had walked to one war and deliberately chosen another. Johnson fought with the 9th Armored Elements for 8 brutal days during the opening phase of the Battle of the Bulge. He was present during the heroic defense of Bastogne's outer approaches, though not within the iconic encircled city. His war ended on December 7th, when a shell fragment caught him in the leg during a fighting withdrawal. Evacuated to a field hospital, his unauthorized transfer was finally untangled. The cost was staggering. His original unit, the 394th Infantry Regiment, had been shattered in the initial onslaught, but had fought with tenacious valor, helping to blunt the northern shoulder of the German advance at tremendous cost. They suffered over 500 casualties in those first 3 days. Johnson learned later that many men in his own squad had been killed or captured. Arthur Johnson recovered from his wound. For his actions from November 25th to December 7th, spanning 2 units, he was awarded the Bronze Star Medal for Valor and the Purple Heart. The citation, carefully worded, commended his initiative and devotion to duty in voluntarily attaching himself to an engaged unit and his marked courage under fire. His story is a unique footnote in the vast history of the Bulge. It underscores the chaos of those first desperate days and the profound impact of individual agency amidst the machinery of total war. He did not walk away from battle. He walked directly into a different, equally violent chapter of the same great battle, guided not by orders, but by a soldier's resolve to fight where he was most needed. Arthur Johnson survived the war, returned to Ohio, and spoke rarely of those December days. The man who walked 10 miles to embark, only to choose a different path, embodied the unpredictable, human reality of conflict, where grand strategies collide with the choices of a single soldier on a muddy road. This was just one of countless untold stories from the Second World War. Subscribe to WWII Records as we continue to bring these forgotten chapters of history back to life.